In this video, you are going to discover the exact success formula that billionaires use, the same formula that separates those who struggle their entire lives from those who rise to the top and stay there. This is not theory. This is not hype. It is the mindset and strategy that Jim Rohn taught for decades, the mindset that shaped people like Tony Robbins, and the same one that quietly runs through the lives of every self-made billionaire you've ever heard of. But let me ask you, how many years have you already wasted running in circles, working harder and harder, yet somehow not moving forward? You keep telling yourself that one day things will change. But the truth is, if you don't change the formula, nothing changes. And isn't that the most painful thought? To imagine waking up 5, 10 years from now and realizing that nothing is different. Same income, same stress, same frustration, while other people, no smarter than you, no more talented than you, are living lives of freedom, wealth, and impact. That is why this video matters, because once you understand the formula, you'll never see your time, your work, or your opportunities the same way again. So if you're tired of being stuck, if you're done with mediocrity, if you are ready to step into the mindset that billionaires actually live by, make sure you subscribe right now and hit that like button. Because this is not entertainment, this is transformation, and it starts right here, right now. Alright, let's begin. Most people believe that success starts with action. Wake up earlier, grind harder, hustle longer. But billionaires know a secret that almost nobody else understands. Action without the right mindset is like pouring water into a broken glass. It doesn't matter how much you pour in, nothing stays. The very first element of the billionaire formula is a complete shift in thinking. And if you don't rewire your mind, every tactic, every strategy, every side hustle you try will eventually collapse under the same limiting beliefs you've been carrying your whole life. I want you to think about this. Have you ever met someone who works twice as hard as everyone else, but somehow still stays broke? Maybe it's even you. You're giving it everything, hours, energy, sacrifice, and yet you look around and wonder, why am I not moving forward? The painful answer is that effort without alignment is wasted effort. You're climbing the ladder fast, but the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. That's why Jim Rohn said, you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. That's not just a nice quote, it's a law. If your thinking doesn't change, your value doesn't change. And if your value doesn't change, neither does your income, your freedom, or your future. Let me tell you a story. Back when Jim Rohn was broke, working at a gas station, he met a man named Earl Schoaf. Schoaf wasn't just rich, he was free. He traveled, he dressed sharp, he had time for his family, and he carried himself with an energy that Jim had never seen before. And Jim asked him the question you've probably asked in your own way. How do I become successful like you? Schoaf didn't say work harder. He didn't say get another job. He simply said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That line hit Jim like a punch to the stomach, because until that moment, he thought success was about external effort. But Schoaf was telling him it was about internal transformation. Billionaires understand this instinctively. Average people resist it their entire lives. So here's the first mindset shift you must make if you want to tap into the billionaire formula. Stop asking, what am I getting? And start asking, what am I becoming? Money follows value, and value follows personal growth. If you want more, you must become more. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is that nobody can do this for you. Not your boss, not your parents, not even your partner. It's you against your own limitations. Now, how do you actually apply this? It's not about reading a motivational quote once and nodding your head. It's about building a daily system to reprogram how you think. Start small. Every morning, instead of scrolling your phone, ask yourself, what one thing could I do today that would make me more valuable tomorrow? It could be learning a new skill. It could be studying a new market. It could even be improving how you communicate. The compound effect of this one shift is staggering. A year from now, you won't even recognize yourself. And 5 years from now, people will call you lucky without realizing you were reprogramming your mind every single day. And let me throw in a bit of humor here, because I know some of you are thinking, so you're telling me I can't just Netflix my way to billionaire status? Exactly. If binge watching created billionaires, the richest people on earth would be teenagers with a Wi-Fi connection. But the truth is, billionaires watch their thoughts the way athletes watch their diets. They know junk thinking leads to junk results. So the first part of the formula is this: transform your philosophy. Don't chase tactics. Don't chase hacks. Rewire the way you see time, value, and yourself. When you start to think like a billionaire, you begin to act like one. And when you act like one, the results eventually follow. It won't be instant. It won't be easy, but it will be inevitable. And remember, this is just the beginning. Because once we lay down the foundation of mindset, we can stack strategies on top of it that actually stick. In the next part, I'll show you how billionaires design their environment and choices so success becomes their default setting, not just a lucky accident. But before we go there, hit that like button if this already hit you deep. Because if you're feeling the shift, imagine how much more powerful it will get as we move forward. Most people never realize they are prisoners of their own invisible thinking. They assume the way they see the world is the way it is. But billionaires, they know the way you see the world is the way you create it. That is why Jim Rohn used to say, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. That is a complete reversal of how the average person thinks. The average person spends their life begging for external circumstances to change. The billionaire spends their life building themselves until circumstances are irrelevant. Think about this. Imagine two men, both given the exact same opportunity. One sees a problem, the other sees potential. One complains about how much work it will be. The other asks, "How much can I grow through this?" 10 years later, one is still stuck where he started, while the other has turned the same opportunity into wealth, networks, and freedom. What was the difference? Not talent, not luck, not even intelligence. It was mindset. Because mindset dictates interpretation, and interpretation dictates action. Let me share another story. A young man once asked Warren Buffett, "How do I become rich?" Buffett could have said 1,000 things. He could have listed strategies, stocks, or formulas. But what he said was simple. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Why? Because markets rise and fall. Jobs come and go. But your skills, your discipline, your mindset that compound forever. Buffett reads for hours every day, not because he has nothing better to do, but because he knows feeding the mind is the ultimate leverage. You and I might not have Buffett's billions, but we have the same 24 hours. The question is, are you investing them or wasting them? Here's where it gets practical. I want you to run a mental audit of your last week. How many hours did you spend reacting, scrolling, complaining, rushing from one task to another versus how many hours did you spend intentionally building yourself? Be brutally honest. Most people will find the ratio is 90% reaction, 10% creation. And that's why they're stuck. Billionaires flip it. They spend 90% of their energy on growth, vision, strategy, and only 10% reacting to noise. You can start rebalancing today. Set aside 1 hour daily that is sacred. No phone, no distractions, just study, reflection, and upgrading your thinking. It may sound small, but small hinges swing big doors. And let me challenge you with this. Stop calling yourself broke or stuck. Those words are not harmless. They're blueprints. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm just trying to survive," your brain goes into survival mode. But if you tell yourself, "I am building wealth, I am training my mind, I am developing billionaire discipline," your brain begins to scan the world differently. It looks for opportunities instead of problems. It notices connections instead of obstacles. This is not positive thinking. This is neurological conditioning. Your brain is wired to follow your dominant instructions. So the question is, what instructions are you giving it? I know what some of you are thinking right now. That sounds good, but what if I fail? And that right there is the mindset trap. Billionaires don't see failure as an end. They see it as tuition. School for the wealthy is not a university, it's the marketplace. Every mistake, every setback is a class they paid for. You can call it losing, or you can call it learning. Guess which one leads to growth? If you truly want to rewire your thinking, you must start romanticizing the process of failing forward, because without it, you'll never build the resilience billionaires live by. Now, let's talk about money directly. When most people get money, they think, "What can I buy?" When billionaires get money, they think, "What can I build?" That difference in mindset is everything. One mindset consumes, the other creates. One empties the pocket, the other multiplies it. This is why so many lottery winners go broke, while self-made entrepreneurs keep building fortune after fortune. It's not the amount of money, it's the quality of thinking behind it. If you put a broke mindset into a millionaire's bank account, the money will vanish. But if you put a billionaire's mindset into a broke man's life, the money will come. Let's get brutally practical again. I want you to start training your mind with what I call value questions. Before you start any task, ask, will this make me more valuable in a year? If the answer is no, reduce it or eliminate it. If the answer is yes, amplify it. This one discipline alone will cut years of wasted time off your journey. It will force you to stop drowning in meaningless busyness and start planting seeds of long-term growth. And here's a warning. The world will resist your shift. Friends will mock you. Coworkers will question you. Family may not understand you. Why? Because your mindset will threaten their comfort. They will call you obsessed, unrealistic, even arrogant. But understand this. Obsession is simply the word lazy people use to describe dedication. If you know what you want, and you are building yourself to deserve it, then let their doubt fuel you. Remember, when Jim Rohn was transforming himself, nobody believed he would become one of the world's greatest teachers. Until he did. Let me give you one more story. There was a factory worker who dreamed of running his own business. For years he worked long shifts, and everyone around him told him to be realistic. But instead of accepting their mindset, he decided to live by a different formula. He spent 1 hour every night studying sales, leadership, and communication. It was slow, boring, and nobody noticed. But after 3 years, he had outgrown his factory job. He started a small business, then another. 10 years later, he was a multimillionaire. His coworkers, still in the same factory, same complaints, same paycheck. What changed? Nothing external, only mindset. So let me ask you directly, what factory are you still stuck in? Maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's mental. Maybe it's the factory of limiting beliefs, of excuses, of waiting for the right time. Billionaires don't wait for the right time. They create it. And you can too. Here's the summary of this first pillar. Everything begins in the mind. If you change your philosophy, you change your value. If you change your value, you change your results. And if you change your results consistently, you eventually change your destiny. That is the starting point of the billionaire formula. Not money, not luck, not hustle, mindset. Now here's the good news. You already had access to the same mental reprogramming billionaires used. Books, mentors, podcasts, networks, it's all there. The only question is, will you consume it passively, or will you train like your life depends on it? Because in a way, it does. So before we dive into the next stage of the formula where we'll talk about how billionaires engineer their environment for success, pause for a second. Ask yourself, am I ready to let go of my old mindset and build a new one? If yes, hit that like button right now, because we are about to take this deeper than most people will ever dare. If the first pillar of the billionaire formula is mindset, the second is environment. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can have the most powerful intentions in the world, but if you live in a toxic environment, you will get toxic results. Billionaires understand this better than anyone. They don't just rely on motivation, they engineer their surroundings to pull them forward, even when their discipline wavers. Think about it. Why do most people stay stuck? It's not always because they don't have ambition. It's because they are surrounded by cues that reinforce mediocrity. Friends who complain more than they create. Colleagues who gossip instead of growing. Homes filled with distractions instead of tools. The truth is, your environment whispers to you all day long. It tells you what's normal, what's acceptable, what's possible. And if you're not careful, it quietly drags you down to its level. Billionaires flip this script. They curate their environment as ruthlessly as they curate their investments. If something drains them, they remove it. If someone inspires them, they multiply time with that person. They understand that proximity is power. If you sit with 5 broke friends long enough, you will be the 6th. But if you sit with 5 builders, creators, wealth producers, you will inevitably rise to their level. Not because of magic, but because environment dictates standards. Let me tell you a story. When Jim Rohn started turning his life around, he noticed that every evening, the men he worked with at the gas station would sit around smoking, drinking, and complaining about the boss. At first, he joined them because it felt normal. But after meeting Earl Shove, he realized something. These men weren't just wasting time, they were training him to think small. So he stopped staying late with them. Instead, he started spending evenings reading, writing, and listening to Shove. Within months, his thinking expanded. Within years, his income followed. That's not coincidence. That's the environment effect. So here's the first practical step you need to take. Audit your environment. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Do they drain you, or do they elevate you? What about your physical environment? Does your home push you toward distraction, or does it push you toward growth? Billionaires are obsessed with asking these questions because they know small environmental tweaks compound into massive results. Here's a practical exercise. Walk into your living space right now. Pretend you're an outsider. Look at your desk, your phone, your walls. Ask yourself, does this space scream growth or comfort zone? If it screams comfort, you need to redesign it. Add books, add reminders of your goals, add cues that pull you forward. Remove clutter, remove distractions, remove energy drainers. Environment is not neutral. It's either making you or breaking you. Now, let's talk about people, because this is the hardest part. Some of you listening right now know exactly who you need to spend less time with. You know the voices that keep you small. You know the conversations that go nowhere. But you're scared because you don't want to lose connection. Here's the harsh truth. You cannot take everyone with you. If you try, they will hold you back. Billionaires are not heartless, but they are strategic. They love people, but they refuse to let mediocrity be their normal. They are willing to outgrow environments that no longer serve their future. That doesn't mean you cut people off with cruelty. It means you adjust proximity. Spend less time with anchors. Spend more time with engines. Let me give you a vivid example. Elon Musk didn't build Tesla in his parents' garage surrounded by friends telling him it was impossible. He surrounded himself with engineers, dreamers, and investors who were obsessed with solving hard problems. Steve Jobs didn't create Apple by sitting at a bar complaining about how life is unfair. He surrounded himself with a small, brilliant team in a garage that screamed creativity. They engineered environments where innovation was the default, not the exception. But here's the thing. You don't need $1 billion lab to do this. You can start today with microenvironments. For instance, create a growth corner in your home. A small table with a notebook, a few powerful books, and 0 distractions. When you sit there, your brain knows it's time to expand. Or create a digital environment. Clean up your social media, unfollow negativity. Fill your feed with thinkers, builders, and teachers. Your brain doesn't know the difference between physical and digital proximity. It simply absorbs what it's fed. Feed it greatness. And let's inject a little humor. Because some of you might be thinking, but I don't have billionaire friends to hang out with. Guess what? Neither did Jim Rohn. Neither did Warren Buffett. Neither did Oprah. They found mentors through books, audios, and communities long before they met them in person. Jim Rohn used to say, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." If you can't meet them in person yet, then spend time with them in books. Read their words until their voice replaces the voice of mediocrity in your head. Now let's address choices, because environment isn't just about people or places, it's about the micro decisions that shape your day. Billionaires don't make success harder than it needs to be. They design defaults. They put the gym back in the car the night before. They pre-decide their calendars so they don't have to battle with willpower. They hire teams so their time is leveraged. Average people say, "I'll do it if I feel like it." Billionaires say, "I'll design it so I don't need to feel like it." That's the power of engineered environment. It reduces friction between you and your goals. So let me give you one practical challenge for this week. Take one goal you've been procrastinating on. Maybe it's reading more. Maybe it's exercising. Maybe it's starting that business idea. Now engineer your environment so it's impossible not to do it. Put the book on your pillow so you have to touch it before sleeping. Put your running shoes by the door so they mock you until you wear them. Block social media apps for 2 hours a day so your brain has no choice but to focus. These tiny shifts are the billionaire formula in action. And yes, people will notice. They'll ask why you don't hang out as much, why your desk looks different, why you suddenly had boundaries. And here's the beautiful irony. At first they'll mock you, but later they'll envy you. Because while they stayed trapped in the same environment, you were busy building one that carried you into a new life. So here's the core truth of this second pillar. You cannot outgrow your environment. If you want a billionaire life, you need a billionaire environment. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Start designing it. Start curating it. Start protecting it like your future depends on it, because it does. Before we move to the next stage of the formula where I'll show you how billionaires multiply their value through systems and leverage, pause and ask yourself, what one environmental shift could I make today that would immediately upgrade my standards? If you have an answer, write it down now. And if this hit you, Drop a like so I know you're serious about engineering your billionaire environment. The first pillar of the billionaire formula is mindset. The second is environment. But if you stop there, you'll become wise and inspired, yet still limited. Billionaires don't stop at thinking differently or surrounding themselves differently. They take the next leap. They build systems and create leverage. This is the ultimate multiplier, because while most people trade time for money, billionaires design their lives so their money, time, and networks multiply while they sleep. Let's start with the painful truth. Most people are stuck in what Jim Rohn called the wages trap. They trade an hour of their life for an hour of pay. No matter how good the pay, the formula is broken, because you can never escape the math. There are only 24 hours in a day. That's why the average person works 40 years and still retires broke. Billionaires don't play that game. They don't sell hours, they build assets. They don't ask, how can I earn more per hour? They ask, how can I build something that pays me every hour? I want you to imagine two people. One works 60 hours a week at a high-paying job. The other spends those same hours building a system, a business, an investment, a digital product. For the first, income stops the moment they stop working. For the second, income flows whether they're awake, asleep, on vacation, or at the gym. Fast forward 10 years. One is burned out and still working. The other has freedom, because the system works harder than they ever could. That's leverage. Here's a story. When Jim Rohn started building wealth, he didn't get rich from his gas station job. He got rich because he learned how to use systems network marketing at the time to build something that multiplied his effort. Instead of relying only on his own sales, he built teams. Each person added a small ripple of value, but together those ripples became waves. That's when he realized, wealth is not about one person working harder. It's about many people working together through systems. That's the principle behind every company, every investment, every fortune. So how do billionaires create leverage? First, they leverage people, not in a manipulative way, but in a mutually beneficial way. They build teams, hire talent, delegate tasks. Average people try to do everything themselves. Billionaires know do it all yourself is the fastest road to mediocrity. They ask, who can do this better than me? And then they let them. That frees billionaires to focus on high-value decisions only they can make. Second, they leverage money. While the average person sees money as something to spend, billionaires see it as a soldier. Every dollar is sent out with a mission to bring back more dollars. They don't just save, they invest. They don't just protect money, they multiply it. This is why Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. That one line should keep you awake at night until you solve it. Third, they leverage time. They understand that time is the most precious, non-renewable asset, that they don't waste it on low-level decisions. They automate, they batch, they eliminate, they create systems that handle the repetitive, boring, draining tasks so their energy is reserved for creation, strategy, and vision. You don't need billions to do this. You can start today. Use technology, planners, even simple checklists. If it saves you brain power, it frees you for higher level work. Now let's get practical. What are some small leverage systems you can create right now? 1. Automate your finances. Set up automatic investments, automatic savings. Stop relying on discipline to save money. Make it a system. 2. Build a small team, even if it's just one assistant, freelancer, or partner who takes tasks off your plate. If you spend $100 outsourcing something that frees you to create $1,000 worth of value, that's not a cost, that's leverage. 3. Create content or products that scale. A book, a course, a digital tool. Work once, benefit 1,000 times. That's billionaire thinking. And let me address a common excuse. But I don't have resources to build systems. That's a lie we tell ourselves to stay safe. The truth is, systems don't have to be expensive. A notebook can be a system. A simple app can be a system. A group of like-minded friends holding each other accountable can be a system. The point is not size, the point is repeatability. If something produces results predictably without requiring you to reinvent the wheel every time, congratulations, you've built a system. Here's a quick mental shift. Average people say, I can't afford to build systems. Billionaires say, I can't afford not to. Because every day you delay, you are stuck in the wages trap. You're burning energy on tasks that could have been automated, delegated, or eliminated. Imagine if Jeff Bezos insisted on packing every Amazon box himself. he'd still be in his garage. Instead, he built systems so massive that they move millions of products without him lifting a finger. And let's not forget networks. Networks are leverage. One conversation can open doors that years of grinding never could. Billionaires invest heavily in relationships because they know that systems aren't just mechanical, they're human. Who you know, and how much trust you've built with them, can multiply your opportunities faster than any single skill. Now, here's the ultimate test. If you were to step away from your work for 30 days, would your income stop? If yes, you're trapped in the wrong formula. If no, if your systems keep running, you're walking the billionaire path. Your goal should be simple: to make yourself less necessary in your own income. The less your income depends on your direct effort, the more leverage you have. And before you dismiss this as far away, let me remind you, every billionaire started with no systems. They built them brick by brick, hire by hire, tool by tool. You can do the same. Start small, but start now. So here's your challenge. Identify one area of your life where you are the bottleneck. Maybe it's your job, your side hustle, your finances. Ask yourself, how can I replace myself here with a system? Write down one action today to begin that process, because the moment you start creating leverage, you step out of the wages trap and into the billionaire formula. Let me close this pillar with a warning. If you don't build systems, you will burn out. If you don't create leverage, your success will collapse under its own weight. But if you commit to building systems that multiply your value, you will eventually reach the point where wealth chases you instead of you chasing it. That is when you truly understand the billionaire formula. And before we move into the outro, hit that like button if you're ready to stop trading time for money and start building systems that pay you forever. Because this is where the formula turns into freedom. So here we are. You've just walked through the 3 pillars of the billionaire success formula: mindset, environment, and systems. And if you really listened, if you let these ideas sink in, you already feel it, the sense that life doesn't have to stay the same, that you can break out of the trap. Because deep down, you know the truth. Your future is not written yet. But if you don't take action, your future will look exactly like your past. And that should terrify you. The difference between the people who stay stuck and the ones who rise to extraordinary success is not talent, not luck, not even timing. It's whether or not they act on what they know. You now know the formula. The question is, will you use it? Or will you file it away as good advice and keep living the same story? Jim Rohn used to say, for things to change, you have to change. And the clock is ticking. Every day you delay, it's another day you stay the same. 5 years from now, you will arrive somewhere. The only question is, will it be somewhere intentional or somewhere accidental? So here's my challenge. Don't just watch this video and move on. Take one action today. Shift one belief. Redesign one part of your environment. Build one system that frees your future. Because once you take the first step, momentum takes over. And that's when life starts compounding in your favor. And if this hit you hard, if you're ready to commit to living by this formula, then subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what your first action will be. Because this is more than a video, it's the beginning of your transformation. Remember, success is not reserved for the lucky few. It's reserved for those who decide. Decide today. Because your billionaire future is waiting.